Slurpty derp my G's, hope you're all doing well. And today we've got a little special guest on the tutorial business today. I thought I'd do something a little bit different. Recently updated my Discord to make it a little bit more expensive, but the part of that plan was to involve people in my Discord more on the channel and stuff like that. Because let's be honest, I've made over 700 tutorials now, and you guys are probably sick of my face. So it's probably a good idea to show someone else's face for a few minutes. Anyway, so I've got a loyal patron supporter, name is Reqiiv, doing an FL Studio tutorial today, which I'm super excited to share because I used to use FL Studio when I first ever started. But his skills with that are way superior than mine. I've completely forgotten how to use that door. But I know a lot of people use it, and some of you on the channel may obviously use it as well. So I thought, why not share some tips for that? So Reqiiv's going to go into some workflow, kind of like some little tips and tricks and shortcuts and things that are just, I think, all round good for producing, especially DNB. Reqiiv's got quite a technical style and really impressive. And he was posting some little videos just in our Discord to share some knowledge on his FL Studio workflow. So I thought, why not get a little a public video going as well? So you guys can feel free to go and support Reqiiv down below in the links. There'll be his Instagram and SoundCloud and whatever. So go and give him a follow. And it's the first video that we've done, so the mic quality wasn't the best on this one. But I think if you can get past that and listen closely to what Reqiiv has got to say for the next 10 minutes, and you're an FL Studio user, hopefully, then I think you're going to learn a lot. So big ups to Reqiiv, and hope you enjoy the tutorial. Peace.
Alright, before I dive into tips and tricks, I quickly want to discuss workflow real quick, since I think workflow is going to be different for every person. I think workflow is the way you translate your ideas and your concepts into reality, into music, and I think this just varies from person to person, right? I don't think you can really teach someone your workflow. You can give them tips, show how you do things, but in the end, their brain works a bit different than your brain, so they might do things the other way around. Now, what you can do though is learn them or give some tips about your techniques, about how you use your DAW, and that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm gonna discuss these 3 topics that help me improve my workflow in Fruity Loops. Just on a quick note as well, I'm using Fruity Loops FL Studio 21, and I don't think all of these functions or all of these things will work in older versions. I think a couple of them do work, but not everything. So keep this in mind. I'm using FL 21, and these will just work in FL 21 and higher. First thing I want to discuss is basically playlists. So you all know this, right? This is just standard playlist, an arrangement of a track in FL Studio, and you can basically have multiple of these playlists in one project file. The way you do it is on top over here. When you hover over arrangement, you will see it lights up, and you can basically click it and it will open a menu. And this menu is your entire playlist menu. As you can see, you can clone them, you can add new ones, you can delete them, and so forth. And the handy thing about this is you can have different playlists in one project file. For instance, for this track, I had the original arrangement over here, and I wanted to do some changes and just see how it worked, or if it worked or not doing these changes. So what I did is I cloned this arrangement, this created arrangement 2. I did those changes. I was like, this definitely works. So I kept going. I kept working in this arrangement. Now, where this is very handy for as well is if you're doing remixes or if you're recording stuff in FL Studio. This is another track, this is a remix I did. And for remix, we got the original stems, and I basically started off with a playlist where I put all the original stems into the playlist. Used that to scan through and whatever. Then I made another arrangement, another playlist where I just tested some stuff, where I tried some sounds, designed some other stuff until I was happy, until I found something interesting, and then I just copy that, do a new arrangement, and this is the arrangement where I just created the track. I think these arrangement things is very handy to keep your tracks or your project files a little bit more organized, and they're definitely handy when you got your like remix stems or when you're recording stuff. You can just record in a different playlist and stuff like that. So that's playlists. A second thing I want to discuss is the markers basically. So if you've all seen these markers probably, I use markers usually to indicate sections in the track, like over here is a drop, here's going to be a switch up, here's a part with no vocals. Sometimes even use them for feedback, where I said over here I have to add more drum breaks, which was what I basically did. Can actually delete this marker as well, but those are the standard uses of markers, right? But what you also can do with markers is give them a function, give them an action. And this happens when you right click on a marker. You can see at the bottom you have different actions. And these different actions give, like as the word says, an action to the marker. For instance, the marker pause is going to pause whenever it hits the marker. If I play from here, it's basically gonna stop and pause your track. The most interesting markers I find is the marker skip, the marker loop, and the time signature. The marker skip basically skips when it reaches this marker. It will skip and will continue from the following marker or the next marker in row. So over here it's gonna start playing from here when it reaches this marker. So as you can see, continues from there on. This is very handy if you want to check some stuff in your track. If you want to, what I usually do is when I create like a track with the first and second drop, both drops will be a bit different in my track. So what I then do is usually I skip the first drop and immediately go to the second drop after the first initial build up and stuff, just to see if it aligns with the track, if it fits. What else this can be used for is if you want to just skip certain parts in the track. If I want to over here want to skip instead, if I just want to skip this first section, I can just place it over here and it continues from there on. The marker skip, really handy function. And the last one, or like the second one I find handy, is a marker loop, and this basically loops from this first marker until the following marker. So whenever it's going to hit this marker, it will automatically return to the marker loop. I can show you by playing right over here. So this loops and just never stops basically. And what this is handy for is usually when I run out of ideas, I try to find the core of the track. This can be like the drop, or this can be a part of the intro or the build-up or whatever. And when I run out of ideas, I just loop that section and just keep looping it, keep it on repeat basically, until I find an idea, or until I get an idea and be like, okay, right, I can go further on this or whatever. So the marker loop, really, really handy. And then the last one is the time signature. This is what I've put at the front. And you can basically enable it by clicking time signature over here or add time signature at the top. What this does, if you click on it, it will basically give this menu where you can select the time signature of the time signature of your track, and this will affect basically your columns in the playlist. You have these darker and these lighter columns, and the time signature will basically affect this. I can show you this by moving this one. You can see that the time signature or like the entire grid moves with this marker. This is handy if you want to have a track with maybe different time signature with a 5/4 or whatever, or in case of this track I wanted to have a little bit of space before the track where I had some kind of sound that builds up into the initial track, just to have a little bit more of room before the track actually starts. So I have this like sound that builds up, it's reversed sound, and then the actual track starts from here, and that's where I've added this time signature, and I can follow on with this grid. Now do note, changing these time signatures will not affect the numbers on top, so these will not change. What it will do is change your grid over here. And the last thing I want to discuss is basically automation clips. So you all know automation clips, and I find Fruity Loops FL Studio, I find it quite, or like maybe the best now in terms of automation clips, because you have so much control over them. You can like cut automation clips up, you can like cut them up like this, delete this part, bring this part over here, move it, and this will still work. Can select both things, can Control G to group them, Control G, and this will basically group them into a new automation clip. And as you can see, it adds a dash merged, and this will create actually a new automation clip out of the two I used over here. So it's very handy to just play around with that and just cut your automation clips up. And I think it's very good workflow thing having these functions. But what you also have with these automation clips is actually an editor. In the past, you just had to scale this to work precisely on your automation clip. Well, now you can just double click on the name at the top, and this will open up a new window, and this is your automation clip editor. And this is just an entirely new view of your automation clips with a lot of handy functions. For instance, at the bottom you can see the target links, you can see where this is linked to. You can easily add new links by pressing this plus icon, you can remove links by pressing the X. What's also handy is you can go, if you select one of the links, you can click on this, and this will target the plugin or target whatever this linked to. So when I click this, you'll see it will open up this EQ. What it does not show is basically highlight what's been automated. That would be nice, but I think it's a bit too difficult. But it's good. It's easy anyways, because you can see over here it says band 7 frequency. Well, yeah, band 7 is this band and this is frequency, so it's gonna be this knob, right? But that is very handy just to open up your plugins or your effects very quickly to see where it's linked to. Do note though, when you're working in here, you will have this magnet button that's going to be turned on usually. This means it's going to snap to the grids. When I want to move this little this point, you can see it snaps to the grid, and I cannot be very precise with it. When I undo this or unclick it, you will see this won't be snapping to the grid anymore, and I can move it more freely. So keep this in mind when using it, that it might be turned on, so you might want to turn it off. Another interesting feature about this is the functions over here at the left. So when you click this little arrow, you will see that you have different functions for the automation clip, where you can basically flip your automation clip vertically, as you can see, and where you can scale the levels, for instance, where you can just manipulate with your automation clip in real time. I find these the two most interesting tools over here. There's many more, but I usually don't use them. Only the flip vertically and the scale levels is what I usually use. And apart from that, there's also two interesting shortcuts they're kind of good to know for these automation clips, and that's Control and Shift. And basically, Control and Shift will lock your movement of these dots. So if I want to move this horizontally, I just hold Shift, and I can move it horizontally freely, but I cannot move it vertically. So this will basically snap to the horizontal axis, while if I click this and hold Control, I can move it horizontally but not vertically. I can move it vertically but not horizontally. And this is just easy if you want to just move your stuff without fucking things up, or without moving like in the wrong way or whatever. So yeah, these were the things I wanted to show. I hope you find these interesting. If you have any more questions, I'd say put them in the comment section. And thank you very much for checking this video. Have a good day. Bye bye.